And back in for another episode of the JDV Experience. Joining me today is Michael Telford, and also commonly known as Late Round Corner
Or
on
Chibs.
Twitter, or Chibs. Who's getting to that? We've got he's a big Baltimore Ravens fan, big draft nerd, especially when it comes to cornerbacks, hence the name Late Round Corner. And he apparently thinks that he's going to try to play NCO today and troll me for 4 hours, but we'll see how that goes. How are you doing tonight, man?
Not bad, man. Thanks for having me on. I mean,
Yeah,
there
of
is going to
course.
be some trolling going on, and we'll get to it. I'm not going to go right into
I'm
it.
sure. But I mean, we've only been trying to make this happen for 2 weeks now. So when you kind of account all that in, perhaps there's some that I've earned, especially with the combine being gone for a week. I recorded one podcast up there. I was supposed to do another one, and the dude got sick and postponed. And I was kind of like, well, I'm really glad he did, because that was very difficult doing that up there. But so I guess we could start a little bit talking about you, right? Like how you kind of got into football, how you got in the writing side. I know that you did some stuff in the past before you got with me, and helped out with draft right now, football sapient.
Yeah, so I played high school football, and I'm 6 foot now. When I started playing football, I was about a foot shorter and the same weight. So I started off as running back, and then between freshman and sophomore year, I shot up about a foot, moved to cornerback, and was a cornerback up until my senior year. Went to the Army, got out of the Army, went to college, thought I might try to play football in college, walked on, and I was like, no, absolutely fucking not. You guys were massive, dude. Since then, man, like I have always been very vocal about my football opinions, my takes, and I've grown to carefully follow the draft and learn about how players become good and what constitute a good player at what position and so on and so forth. And I've always thrown my takes out there. And then when I moved to Twitter, I got picked up by, I want to say maybe it was Ravens Wire, by USA Today. And I didn't last there that long, because for anybody that is watching this that knows me, I'm kind of an asshole. And that transfers through my writing as well. So they didn't like that I would take the opportunity to troll certain players like Rashad Perriman in my articles. And I wrote one really long, lengthy article about Alex Collins, and I was like, well, this is not for me. And I went to, I think I had a quick stop somewhere else, but I ended up at Russell Street Report, which is a massive Ravens fan blog. And then I started my own site, Neutral Zone Infraction. That quickly got out of hand between, my 50, 60-hour work weeks and trying to manage that. So that went by the wayside. And then John, you reached out to me, and we decided to do Draft Right, and then Draft Right went sideways, and now here we are. And this one has not gone sideways, so that's a good sign, I guess. I've done a bunch of podcasts. I had my own podcast. I've done my own writing. I've done editing. I've done pretty much you name it. This past year, I really haven't done anything. Just been focusing on growing my flooring business, and this might give me a kick in the ass to get started again, I guess.
Yeah, so I think when you kind of like start your own website and it fails, and you get a really good opportunity to kind of look at that and be like, well, why did it fail? What did I do wrong? And I hope that's what I learned, with Draft Right, in the sense that, and when you're managing, like a website, you represent more than just yourself at that point. You represent the entire website. Everyone's going to recognize that, and I think that was one of the biggest lessons that I learned from that. But, Neutral Zone Infraction was a good one too. You guys had a lot of promise with that. And yeah, like you said, managing a website is insane sometimes.
And it was kind of the same thing too. Like not everyone that I brought on to work there was a dick, but like a good majority of them are trolls and dickheads. Right. And still to this day, there's Ravens fans that are like, oh, the NCI guys. And I'm like, dude, NCI hasn't existed for like, I don't know, 6, 8, 9 months, whatever. Like, let it go. But it does show you that, like, when you're managing a website, it's a little bit different. Or even just part of a website. You represent the website as well as yourself. So
Yeah, so it kind of growing that temperament is kind of the deal, but that's okay. That's one of the things that we learned. There's a lot of other stuff that we get into and maybe in another podcast, because what we're actually going to talk a little bit today about, you've been looking forward to this. We're going to start here with cornerbacks,
yeah.
specifically cornerbacks in the draft. And I wanted to bring you onto this because when you're at the combine, the media days that are going on, you do there's a lot of people that are in that media room. They're all crowded around the booths. They're all kind of hanging out there.
Booth. I get it.
Yeah. So it's crazy. It's a crazy environment because especially with the top tier players, there's 40, 50 people standing there at that podium, just inching on every word. And
Right.
then you've got other guys that are in that room that have maybe one or two people standing there asking them questions. So I'm not good at working those podiums like that with all those people. A lot of the questions I think that they ask are really stupid. Like, what's your favorite color? Like, you're about to get into the NFL, man. Like, why do I care what your favorite color is?
Yeah, they're like layup questions. It's like they try to make the prospect feel more comfortable, but honestly, they just treat them like kids.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a good question that comes out every once in a while, and then you have the horrible ones. Like I think a couple of years ago when Okuda went through, and that random dude from I forget what the website was, didn't know what he was talking about and asked him some stuff, which I was trying to avoid.
Yeah, and Okuda was just like, you might want to go watch the tape again, dude.
So, anyways, yeah, so that's kind of the atmosphere of media days. It's a little bit of a frenzy, and so I got a lot of one-on-ones. I kind of got in with the escorts, right? Talked with the escorts, made friends with them that are moving the players from location to location. Kind of got to know some of the CBS producers and people like that too that were in the back of the room and pulling these prospects on and off their stage to do interviews. And they were getting, top guys. And so I started catching a lot of these guys, in between going from either the podium back to, the back room, wherever they were hanging out, or coming off the stage. And so we have some really good one-on-one opportunities that I wanted you to live react to, because I think that would help as like a first impressions kind of thing, and then kind of get into the player a little bit as well. Before we get to that, though, you did have some thoughts on Sauce Gardner, the corner out of Cincinnati, that we wanted to get into. We'll get into the Derion Kendrick stuff that I know you're looking forward to in a little bit, but that's where I think we should start, is right there with Sauce Gardner. And you're not as high on him as a lot of other people are in the class.
I am not, man. Like, you talk about cornerbacks, and the good cornerbacks, they have a foundation, they have technique, good technique, and they build everything else from that. Gardner is a splash corner with no technique. He's Marcus Peters without the intelligence and without the at least basic fundamentals. Like, he's maybe Marcus Peters is a bad example. Maybe the kid on the Cowboys.
Oh, the rookie kid?
Yeah,
Diggs.
Diggs. Thank you. Like, Diggs actually probably has better technique than Gardner does. But he's very boom or bust. He gives up a bunch of yards. He'll make your splash plays, but like, he's not. And this sounds ridiculous because Diggs had a hell of a year. But if you look at the deeper metrics and you look at what he gave up and everything like that, then you start to see that, if that goes the other way and the wide receiver gets the ball instead of the corner, which rookie cornerbacks can have a tendency to have a rough start to their career. So if that goes the other way, then you're like, why the hell did we take this guy in the first round? Why did we take him in the top 10, the top 15, the top 20? And Gardner has some of that. He, sorry, I'm switching back and forth between my notes here. He grabs a lot and holds, which I'm fine with if you can get away with it. Gardner doesn't get away with it. He's extremely blatant about it. And that is going to hurt your team because we've all seen the NFL cracking down on stupid ticky-tack penalties this year. So if you're taking a guy like that in top 10 or top 15, because the Ravens fan base is like, oh, bring me Sauce Gardner. Relax. I get it. He gets interceptions. He's around the ball. I understand that. He is a fundamentally flawed cornerback. And if you add penalties on top of that, then you're going to be pissed off at your cornerback. You're going to be pissed off at your team for taking him that high. He doesn't have great build. He's a little skinny, like me when I was playing corner. And his footwork is not great. I'm big on watching corners that have footwork. And he's just not one of those guys. And it hurts his angles. It hurts his pursuit. It hurts his work at the line of scrimmage. He's not going to be like a top of the line press corner. So he could end up being schematically dependent until he gets his footwork worked out. Now you see people that are saying that he's CB1, like above Derek Stingley, above Andrew Booth, above not Matt Elam, Kyer Elam. You got him above all of these guys, and I don't think that he belongs there. Now, do I think a team will fall in love with his booms? Absolutely. But you have to be aware of the busts. You cannot ignore those when you're looking at a prospect. You have to look at the good and the bad.
Kind of the deal with him too is, and this is crazy too to say, but right now, with the way from what I've been hearing and what people that I've been talking to and stuff, like he might be the first corner off the board. Like he might be going top 10. And
that's sweet, dude. Take him top 10 because I don't want him in Baltimore.
and that's like, I think I just mocked him, my mock draft yesterday. I think I had him going to the Jets at 10, which is.
I mock him every time he tries to make a tackle.
But it's kind of one of the things that it's interesting that you brought up, this press technique too, because I was having a talk with a coach in the league that's been in the league for about 40 years now, and a defensive coordinator. And I was asking him about corners because of Gardner, because of Sauce, and saying, is there a certain point where they're too tall? And the first thing he said is, the corner needs to be, if they're tall, they need to be really good in man, specifically press man. And yeah, I've got my notes pulled up on him too right now. The tight coverage on quick routes, but he surrenders a lot of space on anything prolonged, and that's the deal, is he gets so physical, overly physical, he loses that pad level.
And at the line of scrimmage, he likes to punch and jab and everything like that, and that's fine. That's what you're supposed to do. His handwork isn't that bad in press, but if you don't have the footwork and the technique, you're going to get trounced coming out of it.
Yeah,
and down the field, obviously.
Yeah, and that's kind of his issue too, is he doesn't recover well at all. In those certain situations coming out of press, at least. I thought his man coverage was decent. I thought despite that, he struggled against the bigger receivers, which is crazy because who did he play his entire career?
Well, that's the other thing too, right? Like the level of competition is not very good. He did okay against who's the kid that tore his ACL? Williams. Yeah. He did all right against him, but you look at the level of competition beyond that, and it's middling.
Well, look at the routes that Alabama ran in that game too against him, which he didn't really see anything other than the same 3 routes.
Right.
It was a go.
It was a very basic route
and a slant. Yeah, and it was because Alabama was cruising through that game, going, "Yeah, we're just going to get through it and play Georgia." But no, I agree with you. He's not particularly a wrap-up tackler. He goes for the hit low,
and
he tries to throw his body. Yep. And I've got, let's see. Obviously he changes direction pretty well. We saw that through combine drills too.
Yeah.
Which I haven't added anything to my notes since the combine. This is all pre-combine stuff.
And I'm not saying that he won't be a good corner in time. He's not the guy that I'm taking first. Like if you give me the opportunity, if you tell me that 10 cornerbacks are going picks 1 through 10, he's probably 4 or 5 for me.
Well, the issue that I kind of have, and this is a point that I brought up, and you said you didn't read my article because the title was stupid or something.
I meant to go read it after that, and I still didn't.
It's okay. I think so. I think you can kind of get to a point where corners are too tall to be, successful at the next level. And it's right around that 6'2" range. A few years ago, they started talking about this new prototype corner that was coming out, right? Basically in the mold of Richard Sherman. And you can look at these guys. I've got 6 guys on the list that have been taken in the first couple rounds in a high 3rd round pick of guys that are corners that were taken over 6'2". And the list looks like this. It's Greedy Williams, 2nd round.
Unproven.
Lonnie Johnson Jr., 2nd round.
Okay.
Kevin King, 2nd round.
Okay.
Quincy Wilson, 2nd round. Kevin King was 6'3", by the way. Kilo Witherspoon, I think is how you say his name. He's 6'3". And Stanley Jean Baptiste out of Nebraska, 2nd round.
Yeah.
And so all these guys are taken in the top 70 picks of the class.
Greedy's the only one that might be worth a shit.
Well, you could make an argument for Kevin King.
He's been so up and down.
Greedy's like number 3 on the depth chart right now in Cleveland. Like
I give corners 3 years to show me who they are. I feel like rookie corners need a 3-year span to show me who they are. Greedy is, and you know me, I hate the Browns, but Greedy, I think, gets a little bit more time because of the injuries and everything like that.
Okay. And then Witherspoon, you could make an argument for because he got on the 49ers, I believe.
I mean, that's true.
But I think my big argument for that is, well, what were they asking him to do on the 49ers? The same that they asked Richard Sherman to do, which was a lot of zone coverage stuff. So.
And the Niners are not like their secondary since Sherman. Their secondary, even with Sherman, is like it hasn't been good the past few years. I don't think they rely on their secondary as much as they rely on that front 7 to make up for the problems.
Well, that's the thing, because if you look at what San Francisco does is they play a lot of zone coverage. And there's not a lot of NFL teams that still do that today.
Right.
And that's just because zone coverage is so easy for these modern passing schemes to manipulate and exploit. And so it's like even in the Super Bowl, it was the Super Bowl, I believe, right? Yeah, the Super Bowl against the Chiefs when the 49ers played a couple of years ago. Sammy Watkins torched Richard Sherman in the 4th quarter, setting up, that big touchdown that got them back in the game. And why was that? Because he watched on tape and saw that Sherman, his quote, he saw Devontae Adams kill Richard Sherman on the inside release, unquote. So he knew that if he got a good inside release on him and he was in a man coverage situation, Sherman would surrender that to him. And he did. And he pulled it off. And I mean, it seems to be a consistent issue with anyone over 6'2", where if you are a cornerback, because normally if you're that tall, you're playing safety. But if you're a corner, you are 6'2" or over, the issue that you seem to have is your pad level and reactive athleticism.
I mean, yeah, I can get with that because another part of that is the fact that receivers in the league are, so we used to, when we talked about receivers, to flip this around because it's kind of the same, but also kind of the opposite when you're talking about cornerbacks and receivers.
Right.
We used to talk about guys that were 6'3", 6'4", 200 some pounds and, big mothers that could catch the ball. And now you look at the guys that are having the most success. Your Tyreek Hill, Marquise Brown had a weak 1,000-yard season, but Devonta Smith looks like he's probably going to be good. Smaller guys are getting more play time. Cooper Kupp is not an overly large dude, and he was a monster this year. So as the wide receivers kind of shift back towards a smaller breed, if that's what they're going to do, then the corners can't overcompensate in size because they're not going to be able to keep up with them. They're not going to be able to ship with them, run with them, nothing.
And so you look at Sauce Gardner, and he's right there at 6'3", you know, and a good bit over it, kind of pushing on 6'4". And he, like you said, he is lank. He's very slim. You know, he's long, but he's slim. And he looks more like a basketball doppelganger out there, honestly, than anything else. But
6'3" and 190 is not a whole lot of size.
No,
if you're
it's very obvious. Yeah, and that's kind of the issue too. Is all right. Well, if you're gonna get up against a bigger guy, let's say you can actually keep with the smaller guys, you know, which you and I obviously both have doubts about.
Yeah, his long speed and his upkeep ability are questionable.
Well, that's the thing. He tested very well with the long speed, you know?
Yeah, but testing speed and game speed are worlds apart.
Obviously, people.
Treylon Burks ran what, a 4.55? Do you believe he's a 4.55 guy by watching his game?
No, because I watched him outrun the entire Alabama secondary.
Exactly.
And that's kind of what I try to tell people too. Sometimes is it's like, you know, some guys run the same speed with the pads on, other guys don't.
Right.
Know? But I thought Gardner had good speed. I thought he's going to run a 4.5. But yeah, what was it, like a 4.3 something that he ran?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think that's kind of the issue with.
What's the official?
4.31.
No, 4.41 was the official.
Oh, 4.41 was the official. Okay, so I wasn't too far off. But no, that's interesting right there. So I guess,
you think about it, right? Again, he's a slim dude. You add the extra weight of the pads, it's going to slow him down. You put him in t-shirt and shorts, he's going to run a little faster.
Yeah, no, okay, that's fair. And the other thing too is, you know, a lot of people have been talking about this year is that turf was put in after the 2020 combine, and they think that had a lot to do with it too.
Well, the fact that there were 31 players that ran a sub 4.4 or whatever it is, or sub 4.3 is insane.
Yeah. Yes, it is. And it's never happened before. So it seems
not even close.
As though everyone was running faster than on that turf than they normally did. Probably picked up a good 0.5 seconds. So he might actually be closer to that 4.5 range in general anyways.
Yeah.
So might as well start getting into this stuff. We'll start with the heavy hitter, Derek Stingley Jr. out of LSU. This is a guy that's right now, believe it or not, I don't know if we've talked about this a lot or not. He's expected to fall a good bit in this draft. And it goes back to the non-consistent tape over the last few years or 2 years at LSU and the injuries that have kept him out of games. And especially when you look at the UCLA game, it was not the same type of energy that you were accustomed to seeing with him.
Right.
And of course, he was out 3 games later. He was done for the year, had that big game against Central Michigan. But again, that's, you know, Central fucking Michigan. So quick thoughts, initial thoughts that you might have on him. I figured that'd probably be a good place to start. And then we'll get to that interview.
Stingley is my favorite corner in the draft. I think everybody that knows me knows that. I know that his I know that he has limited tape since 2019. I also know that what he showed in 2019 is who he is. Like he obviously had a bit of a drop off in 2020 and 2021. He missed games, he missed time, he got injured, and his play wasn't quite the same. As a cornerback, you kind of have to be in the flow, and I don't think that Stingley ever got back into the flow after 2019.
And you could make the argument that defensive coordinators had a lot to do with that too, because they lost Aranda to Baylor 2019 to 2020 and had that abhorrent season on defense.
Correct. I mean, when you were talking about we were talking about prototypical cornerbacks earlier.
Mm-hmm.
He is a prototypical cornerback for the outside, obviously not for the slot, but he's insanely good in press. He's good when he's backpedaling. He's good with his footwork. He's good with his handwork. He's got good size. He's got good leverage. He's got good jumps. He's got good speed. He's got burst. He's got literally everything you could want in a cornerback. I don't know why people are questioning this. I don't get it. People are like, the people that say Gardner is better than him. No, he's not. Not right now. As a prospect, Derek Stingley Jr. he's better than Jeff Okudah was as a prospect. He's better than who was the guy before Okudah or after Okudah? Patrick Surtain. Well, Surtain might be a little bit better. But
Surtain, I think, is more versatile.
I think he is.
It can maintain that, yeah.
Man, like Stingley had good tape in 2020 and 2021. The fact that people are like, these are his down years. If that's the down year from a cornerback, like that's what you want. It wasn't like he was terrible. He didn't suddenly turn into, nope, can't say that one. I talked to an agent and I can't say that name anymore. But it's not like he turned into Sharice Wright all of a sudden in 2020 and 2021. Like he was still a very good cornerback. He does have some areas to work on. He's going to be a rookie, like he needs to trust himself a little bit more. I think he needs to believe in himself, and I think that'll translate into his game a lot more. I think that he has a little stutter step when he's trying to, like, he comes out of a break and he has this little, like, hitch in his step that I hate. It annoys the hell out of me, and I don't know where it came from because I don't think I saw it in 2019. He needs to get rid of that because it loses him maybe a couple tenths of a second on the receiver, but he can get burned by that when he's facing, say, a Tyreek Hill or even one of the route guys. So I'm not saying he's a perfect prospect, but I do think that he is clearly the top cornerback prospect in this draft.
Let's go ahead and roll that interview with him. That should be over there.
So
for you.
You played at LSU. You got that number 7 this year. Can you talk a little bit about what that meant to you as the player?
It was a big deal to me getting number 7 because the people who's had it in the past, they've done a lot in their careers at LSU, and when I got it, I was just hoping to go out there and just play me.
Awesome. So talk about your technique a little bit when you're playing, and specifically in that man coverage. Like, what do you like to do? What's your favorite kind of setup?
Well, really, it depends on the receiver. So if I have quicker guys, sometimes I'll choose to try to get hands on early or get them some space to let them get going a little bit because, I can run with them. But if it's a bigger receiver, that's when I really try to, stuff them at the line to the best of my ability. So it's really a different approach with everybody.
And your rehab's gone really well up to this point so far?
Yes, it's going great.
Awesome. Good to hear, man.
Yep.
Hey, good luck.
So I absolutely love the fact that Stingley has a different plan for different types of receivers. You will find that cornerbacks from time to time, not the great ones, not even the good ones, but the median of cornerbacks will use the same technique on every receiver they face. Doesn't matter if it's tight end, running back, receiver, slot receiver, does not matter. They use the same technique. I love that Stingley has a different plan for every receiver he faces. You can see it in his play, obviously. He'll switch up his technique and the way that he attacks or lets off of the receiver. And I think that's something very important to help him become one of those top tier NFL cornerbacks. Because without that, he would have to learn all of that. And learning all of that is a process, which is why I give the corners 3 years to show me what you're made of.
And he's already there, is what you're saying, if he's talking about these different techniques like that.
He at least has the mindset, even if he doesn't have a plan for every single kind of receiver he's going to meet in the NFL, like he has the mindset that like, hey, I have to figure this out.
So I like Stingley a lot, obviously. I think I'm with you there. He's by far the best player at the cornerback position. You could make the argument that based on his 2019 tape, he's the best player in the draft right now.
Correct. Well, no, you can't. Kyle Hamilton exists.
Okay. Kyle Hamilton is the generational prospect. If you can call any of these guys in this class generational, that's him.
Yeah, but you could make the argument that he is the second best prospect in the draft.
But, yeah, so I like Stingley. I think
I think, he's got the 23 starts. He was a 5-star guy. His granddad was, played for the Patriots years and years ago, got knocked out of football, was paralyzed for life kind of stuff, so interesting story overall, I think. And, his family very deeply in football, and that's a big deal too. So I think those are all good things. I think that's helped him with his mindset and his prep to make him a pro.
Well, I think you also need, you need motivation, something other than money. You know what I mean? Like, if your only motivation for making it in the NFL is money, you're not going to make it through your rookie contract. Not going to make it through rookie.
Yeah, and I think that's it. His family has been a big part of this his entire life.
Right.
So, I do think that helps. I'm going to agree with you there. But moving on to the next guy that I want to touch on specifically just because you mentioned that is about the way that he preps is Roger Mccreary out of Auburn. This is a little bit of an undersized guy. There are some media scouts that have some issues with his arm length, which I'm going to bring up in the interview too. And I like the answer I thought was interesting that he gave me. But let's go ahead and roll that. No, sorry. Initial thoughts on Roger Mccreary before we start rolling that.
I love Roger Mccreary. I think he has inside-outside versatility. I don't think his size is necessarily an issue because if you do put him inside, that's your prototypical slot corner size. You know what I mean? The way that he plays the receiver and the ball at the same time is something that you can't really teach. Generally, it's either play the ball or play the receiver. He tries to play it he's constantly messing with their hands and getting his hands in their face when they're at the catch point, stuff like that. His tackling is top tier. I think he's one of the best tacklers as far as DBs go in this draft. He's tough. He's physical for a smaller guy. You're getting a lot in that package. So I don't think you really have to worry about, his size too much. He is good in press man. He's good in zone. He has enough speed to keep up with faster guys. You look at his game tape against Alabama. He was annoying to them.
Yeah, you got that right.
Yeah, he was a menace. So, obviously, against taller wideouts, he's going to have issues. So you're going to want to try to keep him in the slot, keep him against the smaller guys, keep him as a matchup corner. Obviously, I think that he has some technique stuff to work on. But like I said, most of the corners in this draft have technique stuff to go on. One of his biggest things is the breaks. He needs to take better angles and figure out how to get out of his break a little bit smoother and a little bit faster.
Let's go ahead and roll this interview with Roger Mccreary.
So, I love your game, first off. I'm just going to start off prefacing with that, with what you did at Auburn, and that's the SEC level, and I thought you do really well, especially with somebody being physical, throughout the route and stuff. So talk a little bit about some of that adjustment that you're going to have to make, because in the NFL, you just got those first 5 yards.
With that, it's just me being more just patient with that. I know I'm more aggressive when the receiver get into his route. So it's just me being more patient and trusting my feet. So going to the next level, I know about that 5 yards you can't touch after the receiver. I'm not bothered by that at all because you can always adjust. And I feel like I'm the person who adjusts to the system easily.
Awesome. So some of the things that have come out, lately is some people showing some arm concern length. To me, that's not a big deal, but to some of these other teams that might be asking about that, how are you answering those questions?
No team never asked me about my arm length.
Really? Awesome.
But just the rumors about my arm lengths and everything, it don't faze me at all because people are just looking for something to talk bad about you. So I really don't care because I always know I'm a great player. So that's my mentality every time, just to play. I don't care.
When you get into man coverage, what's that technique that you like to go to and use?
A technique that I like to use is leverage step, offhand jam. That's what I love to do the most. Just be patient and offhand jam. That's what I do.
Awesome. Last question that I'll ask you, because I think you're waiting to go on serious and all that. So what is the most important trait that you think that you bring to the field?
The most important trait I bring is just like my man coverage. With that, just the man locking the guy up. And my football IQ, recognizing the play before it happened, like being more smarter of the game, and just me like adjusting to different zones because I didn't only just play man. I played man, zone, cover two, and a lot of other stuff.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, dude. Looking forward to seeing you at the next.
So I'm a big fan of the fact that when you asked him, like, what's his biggest strength, he immediately went to man. We kind of touched on that earlier, that like not a lot of NFL teams are going to play zone much anymore. Mm-hmm. So the fact that he's like, I'm a man corner, is, I mean, that's huge for him. I mean, we know that he can play that stuff. Maybe not cover three. Maybe stick to cover two. But man. I think he's decent enough in press, and I think that he has enough skill in zone that if you stick him at slot corner, and if you're a team that runs a slot corner, 75% of the time or more, I think you're very happy with him as an investment in the late first or the second round.
And that's the thing too, is, I honestly believed that, arm length at that position is a concern to NFL teams. And that's why I brought that up. And when he said, he was like, nobody's asked me about that in the league. But
so here would be my question, right? Like, why do you think it's a concern? You personally?
Personally, I don't think it's a concern.
Why do you think that the NFL teams would think it was a concern?
Length, being able to get it up in there, make up for any difference that you have when you're, reacting.
But if teams are viewing him as a slot corner, then the length doesn't matter as much anymore. And plus, he has some good hops.
Well, that's true, but I thought perhaps he would be, recognized or viewed perhaps as a potential, investment as a boundary corner, not right away. Start him in the slot, try to move him to the boundary because his size isn't terrible.
Correct, and he has skill outside. So I mean, I think he has the versatility.
Arm length is under 30 inches, and that was so when teams weren't asking him that. I think that was the telltale for me that said, okay, we're not looking at him as we're not going to project him as a boundary corner right away because nobody's worried about that.
Well, the other reason that they might not be worried is maybe teams are just falling in love with his versatility. Because if you look at him and you look at the way that he plays inside, outside, he could play some as a third safety, or a free safety. So you look at a guy like that and you look at the versatility and you look at the raw ability that he has. And I mean, that's an investment pick. You know that if you have a good cornerback coach, like, you're going to turn this kid into something. So I don't think you have to worry about his arm length. I mean, you look at his overall size anyway, he's not going to have the longest arms. He's not a pterodactyl like Gardner. So I think you can make adjustments for that and kind of fire him as a slot corner, which maybe that drops his draft stock a little bit. And it's unfortunate because I think he's very talented. But if it was me, I'm picking him as a slot corner.
He did really well at Auburn. I mean, you brought up specifically that Alabama game at the end of the year this year, where he was doing an excellent job, covering, especially on that last drive. They almost didn't score because of Roger McCreary, making that play right there at the end zone. But yeah, I like him a lot. I think he's a great boundary defender. And that's somebody that I want to have in the flat, especially if I'm going to be facing a team that's going to run, a lot to the boundaries, like, these, what are they, like the Rams, the 49ers, now I guess the Dolphins. If you got a team like that you're going to be facing, this is a really valuable guy because, like you said, he is arguably the best tackler from a DB standpoint in this class, and I like that about him too. I love corners that can tackle people.
And he's got enough physicality for his size that it's not just like a stronger guy isn't necessarily just going to run through him.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and I think that's not going to be too much of a concern. But it was a good interview. I didn't think actually that one's up on Football Sapient, so if you want to take a look at the transcript, that's up there. But it was very difficult to go through it and transcribe that one just because of some of the jive and stuff that he was using. But maybe that's the wrong word to use now. I don't know.
I do also like that he said one of his concerns was getting smarter about the game. The fact that he has an interest in learning the game and learning more than just what he needs to do. That touches on like the whole Derek Stingley thing where you have to have you'll back on your lip there. That touches on the whole like Stingley thing where you have to have a different plan for every wide receiver. I think Roger McCreary probably has the same type of mindset where he can learn how to do that. So he would fall into that 3-year window.
So we're gonna go next to Zyon McCollum. Is this a guy that you've looked at yet?
I haven't looked at Zyon in depth yet because he was at like Sam Houston State.
Yeah.
So not really high on my list of priorities. So I don't have much in terms of, I know he ran a 4.3 and I know he is around the ball a lot, but other than that, I haven't watched enough to know about his foundation or his technique or anything like that.
All right, so I guess I'll introduce McCollum here. This is a guy that I heard about back in spring football when the FCS was playing their lower levels. I almost said FSC because I've been overseas for so long now. So I heard about this. I was in Afghanistan. There were people telling me about this guy while I was there. Sometimes his positioning isn't great. His physicality could be better, especially in man coverage. He was very mobile in zone. They ran a lot of different stuff. But like the speed's there. He's a decent tackler, decent boundary guy. He might have some size concerns too. He's kind of up there at 6'2", 6'2", unverified.
Yeah, but 6'2" and 2/8, so that's 6'2" and 1/4.
2/8,
like,
yeah.
We're not worried about that.
Well, I'm gonna worry about it just a little bit, but this guy's he's an interesting dude, and I was really impressed with the personality that you're gonna hear. So let's go ahead and roll Zyon McCollum's interview.
So you got the opportunity to go play at the Senior Bowl. So you want to talk a little bit about that experience and what you were able to learn down there?
Yeah, it was a cool experience, especially being such a big jump from the FCS level. Being able to compete with a lot of those big names. It was truly a blessing, and I learned a lot throughout the week. In terms of like a skill level position, it wasn't too much of a difference, but the O-line, D-line is definitely bigger, and the game speed is a lot faster. So it was a cool experience, especially to learn from some of those NFL guys and pick up techniques from some other guys I was playing with. It was pretty cool.
You want to talk about some of those techniques and maybe some of the mechanical points that you picked up on?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I came in, my premier man technique was a single hand jam, and they told me to drop that pretty early and to adopt what they call a pierce step, because that's the premier technique for press in normal down situations. So just being able to learn new techniques like that. And then pick up on a lot of zone coverage. We ran a ton of man coverage at Sam Houston. So just picking up on little things like that.
So you also had the opportunity to match up while you were, at the FCS level with Christian Watson, for example. You want to talk about some of the challenges that you had while you were trying to cover him and maybe some of the stuff you might have learned there too?
Yeah, he's a good receiver. I mean, there's a ton of really good receivers at the FCS level, and I'm sure Senior Bowl, the NFL Combine, a lot of these small school guys are getting their opportunity to show what they can do and that they can compete on the big stage. So, yeah, he's a good receiver just like everybody else, and his length, his speed is definitely something that will convert to the next level, so I'm excited for him as well.
Awesome, Zyon. Thank you, man.
Zyon, what is the meaning?
I mean, he sounds smart. It's tough for me to judge off the interview when I haven't watched his tape or anything like that. It sounds like he has the interest in learning, different techniques and everything like that. And if he's open to that and can pick them up, then I think that gives him kind of a leg up as far as the next level. Where he said he went in and he was using one technique and they were like, no, cut that shit out. And he immediately stopped doing it. Like, that's huge. That shows coachability and maturity. Something that he had been doing for years, he stopped doing because they were like, hey, this is wrong and here's why it's wrong. So you want a guy like that because he's teachable.
Yeah, single hand jam is not going to work at the next level.
No.
It's just not. And so he's right. Taking it on the peer step and learning how to do that. And I was very impressed with him. If you saw his demeanor when you're talking to him, it just looks like he was taking in the entire experience of the combine, right? And he was just enjoying it. He was enjoying talking to people and trying to take in what you were telling him too at the same time, if that makes sense. It came across as a very, very coachable player.
Well, that's good, man.
Right person.
Especially when you're going from the FCS level to the NFL potentially, like you want to be a sponge and you want to learn from all, because you're talking about he's got guys from the SEC and ACC and every like the bigger conferences all around him, and he's trying to learn stuff that maybe he couldn't learn in the FCS. And then you've got the NFL coaches and the scouts and the executives, and he wants to learn whatever he can glean from them as well. So that's huge for a young player coming into the NFL.
I don't know if you've looked at this guy either, but Allante Taylor out of Tennessee.
I mean, I watch Tennessee games, so.
Okay, so
who are you talking to right now?
Allante Taylor.
No better. I said, who are you talking to right now? Like, you know better.
Okay, so I have a lot of notes on Allante Taylor. Obviously, being the Tennessee fan that I am.
Right.
Proudly repping here as we're talking. And very excited about this next year. But Allante Taylor surprised me. And this interview that we're going to play is almost 3.5 minutes long. And it's 3.5 minutes long for a reason. Like, the dude really gets in depth with a lot of stuff. But maybe some of your initial impressions, if you don't have too many, I'll go into some mine too, I guess.
He's a project, man. He has some really good things going for him. He's not necessarily a small dude. He's 6 foot, 200 pounds.
So I got him at 6 foot, 193 as of the Senior Bowl.
Okay. He ran a 4.3, almost a 35 vert. And what was his broad jump was like what, 125 or something like that?
Something crazy. I'm going to see if I can't get those up here real quick.
So, I mean, he's been banged up a little bit from what I remember, and he kind of plays through it. That's good and bad. At the next level, I don't know if he'll be able to do that as much because he can risk a worse injury and hurt his team by not being available. I do like that he has that grit and that toughness. I think that if I remember correctly from the combine, he's got long arms, long legs. We talk about wingspan, we talk about length. You can't teach length. So he's got that going for him for sure. I do think that, and this is me just going based off of Tennessee games, I don't remember him being a very fast game speed corner coming out of breaks. If he has to recover from something, I don't think he's very good at it. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think
I've got average recovery, so yeah, you're right.
I feel like he got burned a few times on some pretty grotesque routes. So now, granted, it is Tennessee, so it's not like he had the cream of the crop around him on defense. So I'm sure that alluded to some of it. But I think he's got some stuff to work on. I think he starts off as maybe not a practice squad corner, but I think he's a backup somewhere.
Yeah, so he had a 128 broad jump at the combine.
Okay. So, I mean, he's got the explosiveness and he has the length profile. I'm just not so sure that his agility and mental profiles go along with it.
Yeah, so the jam technique I thought was really good. Coming out of press coverage, he did a lot of good stuff there. He was a little bit too physical at times, so would surrender a lot of positioning. Reacts well. I just wanted to see him play more aggressive, and when he's playing off man, stuff. He did a good job staying with, for the most part, with some of the top receivers they played last year. Tennessee plays Alabama every year. They play Georgia every year. So they have right there a couple of really good games to evaluate. And then zone coverage, I mean, he's not as adept where he needs to there. He plays much better when he doesn't have as much space, I noticed, especially in zone. And so in the red zone, he plays pretty strongly there. But let's go ahead and roll this, because I think this is going to speak a lot to his the intel concerns that you just brought up.
How you doing today, man?
Good about yourself.
Pretty good. So Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that culture change that you guys just went through, going from Coach Pruitt to I can't think of his name right now.
Coach Hyde.
Yeah, that's right.
It was different for sure. Two different coaching styles. Kind of erasing the whole culture that we had before. I feel like the biggest change there was probably just the things that we did off the field, such as dodgeball, things that we did like to build our team chemistry. Was really big. And then you go into the defensive side of the ball. Our playbook was a little bit smaller than it was with the Pruitt staff. There wasn't as many checks, wasn't so much thinking really to it. So being able to kind of go out there and just fly around and just get the call and just play that call out was big. And if you kind of look at our defense this year in comparison to the last 3 years before that, we put up some better numbers, I would say, just because we didn't have to think so much and we could kind of just go out there and play football.
Yeah, you guys had the most tackles for loss too this year, right?
Yeah. That was one thing we were really big on. A lot of blitzing, a lot of playing man-to-man on the outside, making the quarterback hold the ball a little bit longer than normal. And then, Coach Martinez coming in, teaching us different type of techniques to kind of be more confident on the outside, make sure that the pressure got there when we needed it to.
So let's talk about your man-to-man coverage technique.
Yeah.
So I like to ask you guys this because I feel like I can learn a lot watching your tape. But what's that technique style that you prefer to play with? What are you most comfortable doing?
Yeah, so I'm more of like a reset the line type of guy. Pair step with my outside foot. With the old staff, we learned offhand jam, which is probably something that will carry over into the league. But with Coach Martinez, we worked on kind of like a two-hand jam, 2 to 1 hand. Kind of makes you stay on top a little bit more than normal, because if you don't, then your hips are going to get locked up and you're going to get beat easily. So kind of staying on top of routes a whole lot this year, which was pretty big because it kind of played a little bit more off on the line of scrimmage. And we could be a little bit more aggressive with this staff than we did like last staff in certain areas of the field. So.
And I think that Georgia game too, like there were plays that you made against some of those receivers, and you played against some of the best guys. So,
right.
Talk a little bit about that SEC level, if you don't mind me, throwing that out, and what that was like playing in that conference.
Yeah, the SEC, I'll always say this, SEC is probably the best conference in college football, in my opinion. Like you say, you have good guys. Going to the University of Tennessee, playing in the East, you're playing great competition every single week, right? You got Georgia, Florida, Alabama, South Carolina, Missouri. Like, you're playing great competition every single week. So it's big, and in order to come to the SEC and play and do what you have to do, you gotta prepare the right way, and you have to work out the right way. So kudos to Coach Schmidt and the strength staff, as well as getting our bodies ready so we can compete each week.
So last question I got for you, you got the chance to go to the Senior Bowl. What were some of the things that you learned there that you were able to apply, that you'll be showing a little bit in mini camp and, over the summer?
Yeah, really, I think the biggest change for me was that 5-yard rule. It was something that was a big adjustment for me just because in college you kind of get longer. So, and me being a physical guy, I like to get my hands on guys. And one thing I had to learn at the Senior Bowl was that you only get 5 yards. So if you're going to get your hands on guys, you got to get them on there early. So now knowing that and kind of having that experience, I can now go into rookie mini camp and understand that, and I won't have so many penalties or things like that, or a big growing change there. So
awesome. Thanks for the time, dude.
Of course.
I do like that he understands that there are weaknesses in his game and things that he needs to change. I just, not having watched him in depth, I can't say that, I can't honestly say that I've seen him start to work on those things. But the fact that he knows he has weaknesses in his game and he knows he has stuff that he has to work on strengthens my belief that he's not going to be a starting corner in the league, at least in year 1.
I think that's fair with him. There were times where he struggled. I have in my notes on hip flexibility. He struggled to flip his hips and turn back upfield when he has to, and that's why he had some of the average recovery stuff. But he is explosive. He's got a lot of good tools and stuff. He had a really good week at the Senior Bowl too, so I think that he's got that running for him.
The other thing that we haven't mentioned so far, and I know we only have a couple of corners left, but like one of the things that we haven't mentioned so far is that this DB class is extremely deep. So you're going to see guys that have potential like him go in the 5th and 6th round, and you're going to be like, what did I miss? And you probably didn't miss anything. It's just that man, it's one of the deepest DB classes I've ever seen.
And that's something I've been talking to a lot of people about too, and this came up a lot, specifically at the combine, is saying, look, like, there's going to be guys here in this class you're going to be seeing that are normally 3rd round guys going 5th, 6th. And it's not just the corners that are deep, the defensive line's really deep, the wide receivers are really deep, the running backs are basically all the same. I mean, with the exception of a few. I mean, that's why we had 38 running backs at the NFL Combine this year, which is an unheard of number.
Pass rush is deep.
It's just you can even make the argument and say it's a very deep offensive tackle class. There's people talking about
line in general. I think
people talking about Braxton Jones coming out of Southern Utah, went to the Senior Bowl. Going, oh well, the Rams take him, and at the end of the 3rd round, one of their comp picks, and it's like,
well, you're seeing
a lot of better options there. Man,
you're seeing Okuzzi from Boston College being mocked in the 7th round. Like that alone should give you, and it's consistent. It's not like one of those things that the mock draft machines always screw up the value of players. Like, let's face it, your mock draft is never realistic. But you're seeing that consistently because of the depth in the.
Yeah.
I mean, Josh Joby going projected to be on day 3 is just absurdity.
And Joby, I loved Joby. I wish he'd come out last year.
Yeah, big Joby fan. If he came out last year, he'd go on day 2, early day 2.
Yeah. He would have been a lot sooner, but he came out. And that's, I think, the issue with this is, last year we knew that there were going to be a lot of guys that were going to go back to school because of the COVID.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys did that. And so, this was something I was hearing about back, I want to say in December 2020. People in the league were telling me, look, we're trading picks right now for the next draft because it's going to be so deep. We're going to get so much value out of our picks there. And so that's the other thing too, is teams knew that this class was going to be really deep.
That's why
as soon as I said that,
4th round picks, we've got 10 picks in the top 90, I think,
which is insane this year. That's insane for this year. You can build a team basically, like the absolute foundation of a team with that in this class.
Yeah.
Outside of the quarterback position, because all the good quarterbacks went last year, it seems.
Correct.
But still,
you might get 1 or 2 surprises out of this year, but
maybe, give or take.
They're not exciting.
So I am saving Derion Kendrick for last.
Of course you are. It's a good idea.
Now, Kyler Gordon is the next guy up out of Washington. Is this the guy that you've looked at or no?
I have looked at Kyler Gordon mostly because, I don't know how he became, the it name for Ravens fans for a week or so there, but it made me want to punch a baby, dude. I don't get it. He's not a technical corner. He's not a foundation corner. He's not a splash corner. So I don't understand what the love affair with Kyler Gordon is. Plus his name Kyler, and let's just face facts, if you're named Kyler, you're automatically at a disadvantage.
Hence why
tackling isn't great.
He's currently trying to negotiate a contract in the media because he's at a disadvantage.
Yeah. His tackling isn't good. His coverage isn't good. His angles aren't good. His footwork isn't good. His hands aren't good. I don't understand why everyone's like, oh, Kyler Gordon is a good corner. Is he though? I think he's one of those guys, every so often you get one of those guys that has a decently high floor, but not a super high floor, but they also don't have a super high ceiling. There's a low range of possibilities with what you're going to get with this corner or this prospect, unless something wild happens with him. But he's just a guy. And I don't understand why people, and I can tell I'm starting to get tired because I'm starting to get argumentative. In the slot, I guess, is where you're going to put him.
Yeah.
And if you're taking a pure slot corner, you're not taking him on day one or early day two. Not unless you're damn sure he's Kenny Moore, or you're damn sure he's like a healthy Tavon Young. I don't get it. I think that he has the ability. I think he is capable. He is a capable corner. He's not a good corner. He's also not a dog shit corner, so he's got that going for him, I guess.
Let's go ahead and,
like I said, that low range of possibilities. And if you want a safe prospect, I guess you take Kyler Gordon. But like we were just talking about with how deep this DB class is, I don't view him as exciting. I don't view him as a game changer. I don't view him as a starter. Even after that 3-year period, I don't view him as a starter. There's too much cornerback talent in the league.
let's go ahead and roll that interview. I think you're going to like what he has to say, too.
Pretty good. So, University of Washington out there in the Pac-12. So you want to talk a little bit about Washington and, what that experience was like being out there?
Washington was a great experience for an athlete like me. And honestly, just being able to get coached by some of the coaches that were there and honestly just build my game up and my technique. And I feel like just established me to a pretty good DB.
So what do you think is your biggest strength, as a DB and what you're going to bring to the next level?
Yeah, I feel like my versatility mixed with my athleticism, just being able to do a bunch of different things as far as like my ball skills when I'm in man coverage or even zone coverage, being able to be in the run fit as a nickel and blitz off the edge, being in the run fit, a bunch of different things. Yeah.
When you get to man coverage, what is that technique? What's that first, like the style that you like to play with?
Yeah. It honestly depends on the receiver. My study that whole entire week. So it could be anything from establishing the line to jamming to mirroring. Honestly, I just like to have a lot of tools in my back so I can counter with whatever.
So you feel like you have a lot of those coverage techniques, the mirror, the trail perhaps, that you do really well.
That's correct.
Awesome. Appreciate the time.
No problem.
Good luck, man.
Yeah, thank you.
You can feel like you have a lot of tools and still not have a lot of tools. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to walk back what I said earlier. I think it's great that he studies receivers and he tries to figure out what he needs to do against each one. But you're a run blitzing slot corner. You're a niche corner, a very niche corner. I don't understand what people see in him, and maybe I'm way off base on him. Maybe people will laugh at me for this down the road, but I don't fucking think so.
Yeah, no, the thing that I thought was interesting is because when in the Stingley interview, he specifically mentioned studying the receiver and preparing his technique based off of that. And that's what, Kyler kind of mentioned too. So at least he has the mindset that's there, right?
He acknowledges that that's what he needs to do. It's the execution that's an issue.
Gotcha. Okay. I actually don't have extensive notes on this guy yet. And he went up to the CBS booth and I just picked him up coming down. Wasn't expecting too much. I liked his personality. I thought he came across as a really good dude. But it is, I think you do have a fair point. Niche corner, niche slot guy that you can use as a run blitzing, run stop kind of guy. I mean, that's kind of valuable, when you're going up against certain teams. If you're in the AFC South, for example.
How many teams use a nickel corner and then on top of that, blitz the nickel corner?
Well, think about the AFC South right now.
I'm not saying it's not useful, but you have to think about the number of teams that actually do that. Baltimore's one.
Mm-hmm. And no, I
the Colts are one.
Yeah, that's what my point being. You have the Jaguars and the Texans that are going to be doing that a lot this year because you're in a division with Derek Henry and Jonathan Taylor. And you need all the fucking help you can get to stop those two guys. And and I think you're going to see Jacksonville and Houston. They're going to go get running backs this year too. That they're going to try to use for that same sort of power. Whether they mix it up and it's a 1-2 punch, they're looking at these guys right now. I can promise you, because that's where that division is gone.
I would just like Jacksonville to use James Robinson for the love of my dynasty team.
Always goes back to the fantasy football, man. But no, I think there's certain teams that they're going to use that he's valuable. And now I think if this is last year's draft, he's going day 2. And that's because when you look at last year's draft, what nickels did you have in last year's draft? This year, he's probably going to go day 3. And a lot of people
you got guys
why?
Like Roger McCreary, Trent McDuffie, like Josh Joby could play the slot and excel at it. You got a couple other guys, a couple of them we talked about tonight. Like, so I mean, I get what you're saying, and I hate talking bad about cornerbacks, especially like rookies coming out. But like, again, just a guy. And in this case, even less of a guy because you play one position and you do one thing well, and that is be physical and aggressive. That's all you do.
Yeah, we'll see, man. I think he's got a good mindset. I think teams will buy into that because honestly, talking to a lot of these guys, you kind of see nerves. You see nerves. You see the crazy kind of like, I don't know about this guy at all. Like this guy just does not strike me as a very smart, intelligent person.
Right.
I'm not saying names. There were certain people that you talked to and you kind of came away with like, I could have probably had a better conversation with a stone.
And you have to have intelligence and personality to play cornerback. Have to. Look at all the good cornerbacks in the league. They're smart and they have a personality.
That's true. So here's the prime. You've been waiting for this. This is probably going to be the longest discussion of the night on a single player. And it is Derion Kendrick, the cornerback out of Georgia, who transferred into Georgia from Clemson.
That you said was better than Andrew Booth Jr.
I do think he's better than Andrew Booth Jr.
I
could be very wrong about Booth.
You are. John, you're the only guy, the only human in the world that thinks Derion Kendrick is better than Andrew Booth Jr.
That's okay. I've been wrong before, but I've been right. Stand for my principles, man.
This isn't principles. This is insanity.
All right. So I'm going to go through my notes. We'll start off that. You can interject at any time.
That should be good.
Did he run his 40? First off, I need to figure. Did he run a 40?
No.
Or did he not participate?
I don't think he participated.
Yeah, so he's holding off for his senior day. Okay. Or pro day, whatever they're called.
Pro day.
I don't know why I said senior day. All right.
Yeah, it's a different thing.
So I have excellent speed, stayed with some of the fastest receivers well. Great acceleration, excellent burst. Upper body strength leaves some room for improvement. He's got
upper body strength too, but like the physical receivers that we were talking about earlier, go back and watch the tape against any physical receiver that he faced. He got bodied by them, mossed by them, time after time after time after time. Could have used that gun that he had in the gun charge, and it still wouldn't have evened the playing field. They murdered him.
Changes direction decently well. Ridiculous recovery. Gets back into the play quickly. Decent tackler, tends to be hesitant to engage at times. Has a tendency to play the football instead of the receiver.
Also, when he tackles, like he has no functional play strength, or at least functional tackling strength. Because again, bigger guys break the tackle. Fucking see ya. And that's not even counting the parts where he just gets fucking toasted. He looks like Eli Apple out there, just getting fucking roasted down the field.
Plays the ball very well.
His average reception, the average yard per reception he allowed is something like 16.7.
Yeah.
You know what Andrew Booth says?
How many catches did he give up?
In 2021 or just in general?
I'm going to pull this up. I got my PFF right here.
Sweet.
Defense. Derion Kendrick, 7th ranked player overall on the Georgia defense.
Yeah, let's not talk about PFF ranks.
I don't
Raw
pay
data is
attention to
awesome, but their ranks
I don't
are...
pay attention. Yeah, I don't pay attention to grades. Those are absolutely garbage sometimes, especially with DBs. All right, he gave up 25 catches last year with Georgia, 373 yards, 14.9 yards a catch, 4 interceptions, 5 passes deflected. If he was playing so NFL passer rating surrendered was 38.6.
Okay.
Just
See,
saying,
and this is why I don't
38.6.
understand shit like passer rating allowed, because like Chris Westry gave up similar stats and allowed an 88.2 passer rating.
0 touchdowns.
Yeah,
No
Westry
touchdowns
didn't.
allowed this year.
That's awesome. Allowing touchdowns is such like, it's a garbage thing too, because like, oh, the linebacker was trying to catch the guy that Kendrick let go, and then all of a sudden the touchdown is on the linebacker instead of Kendrick.
4 missed tackles. Made 35 tackles last year. Played 787 snaps. Was targeted 54 times. So, I would say those are pretty decent numbers. Honestly, I think that's pretty decent.
I don't like raw stats. I want his advanced metrics. Hold on.
All right, but I think he plays the ball well. He's a good ball. He's kind of a ball hawk. Has the ball skills to work off his assignment and play another receiver, try to make a play on the ball. Tends to be too physical in coverage. Plays well beyond the 5 yards. Physical to catch points. So it's something he's going to have to work on. Is specifically is the 5-yard rule. I think. Didn't see him play press very much. In fact, I think they had him. I guess they don't tell me what he was playing. Oh well. He didn't play much press from what I could see, but he played a lot of off man, which Georgia did a lot. They mixed up their zones and he was pretty effective, I thought, in zone at least. So overall, I really like him. I thought he did really, really well at the Senior Bowl too. But that's my 2 cents on him. That's my notes that I have at this point.
Can't get off his blocks. He can't follow through on his tackles. His angles are not great. Like his hands and eyes.
Yeah, you're not gonna draft him to be a. You're gonna draft him to be a straight up corner, and I'll give you that.
But again,
he's a straight up coverage guy.
Lack of versatility. You're losing value in the corner. Booth is versatile. Therefore, Booth, Kendrick.
Okay. I've been over this many times. And so a lot of times I don't like Clemson Defenders because of the scheme they ran. You can point to a plethora of Clemson Defenders that have come out.
Are you telling me that you're watching Andrew Booth and thinking he's a scheme-dependent corner?
I'm just saying that I think that the scheme puts these guys, which is what you're supposed to do, but you don't see this a lot at the NFL. Okay? You're supposed to put guys in positions to succeed.
But when you're evaluating a prospect, you have to look past the scheme and look at their foundation and their technique and what they do well and what they don't do well and who they are as a human and so on and so forth, and then extrapolate and project. You can't just be like, oh, he's in the Clemson scheme. It's built for him to succeed, so we're going to knock a few points up. Like, the only time you would knock points off for a scheme and helping someone succeed is if it didn't fucking help him succeed. Like, if Andrew Booth was in the Clemson scheme and he was terrible, then you'd be like, oh, well, this guy's dog water. But you can't be like, oh, he was really good in the Clemson scheme. Maybe it's not the scheme. Maybe it's his perfect foundation and technique and coverage ability and physicality and length and everything like that. Maybe it's the prospect, not the scheme.
Bear with me. I'm going to go back to I'm going to start right here about 2019. And I'm going to give you some Clemson defenders that have come out of Clemson.
I don't care about the other defenders. I don't.
I'm making my point. Excuse me. Trayvon Mullen, 2nd round. Is he even in the league anymore?
Who?
Trayvon Mullen.
No.
Okay. Dorian O'Daniel went in the 3rd round.
Yeah, he's out too, I think.
Cordrea Tankersley,
He's
corner out of Miami.
he's definitely out.
3rd round pick. Mackenzie Alexander, 2nd round pick.
I think he's still in.
TJ Green, safety, 2nd round pick.
He's out.
J-Ron Curse. I'm at 2016 right now.
Didn't he just sign somewhere?
J-Ron Curse?
He may not be out.
No, he's with Dallas. He just started with Dallas last year, but it was his first year as a full starter. He spent 4 years in Minnesota, basically, as a backup, special teams. Played with Detroit in 2020. They cut him. He goes to Dallas last year and starts in that abhorrent secondary. Point is, there's one exception to this so far, and that's AJ Terrell. He's arguably a top 10 corner.
Not arguably, he's the top 10 corner.
Fair
So
enough. Okay.
actually, that doesn't prove your point. So you're looking at all that stuff, right? And you went more and more recent and more recent and more recent. So the last one to come out of Clemson in the early rounds was AJ Terrell, a cornerback who is a very good corner. So what makes you think
That's
all of a
one
sudden
guy.
What
makes you think that all of a sudden they have a guy that, they've got it figured out. They've got really good corners now, all of a sudden.
When did they update their secondary coach? What year?
That's a great question. I don't know. Clemson secondary coach. He probably just went with Venables to Oklahoma, most likely, too.
Because right now, what you're saying is that the school produces great college defenders that don't translate to the NFL. That is what you're saying right now. And that is a stupid fucking statement, because any player that comes out of any school can break the mold.
All right. So here, Mike Reed has been the cornerbacks coach for 8 years at Clemson. So all of these guys that we just went over, he was their cornerback coach.
So maybe it's just the prospect.
My issue with Booth. Let me see if I got my notes because we're going down this rabbit hole. We haven't even gotten to. We'll get to Kendricks here in a minute. I just think Kendrick's better. That's all. All my notes are very positive. I'm not saying Booth's not a good player.
Your Derion Kendrick homer is what you are.
I just like Kendrick. Kendrick came out of fucking Clemson, man. Goes to Georgia and wins a natty.
Yeah.
With arguably the greatest defense ever in college football history. But
exactly. Like he
was corner number one, man. Corner number one on this team.
But he went to a school and it was full of NFL first round talent, matter of fact. And you're talking about he won a natty. Okay, so he won the fucking natty all by himself. Like Eli Apple lost the Super Bowl all by himself. That doesn't mean that Derion Kendrick won the natty all by himself by going to fucking Georgia.
Okay, but the drop off in talent from the ACC to the SEC, there is a drop off there.
Correct.
You have to acknowledge that, especially at receiver.
That doesn't knock off Booth's fundamentals and ability and God-given talent and size.
But Kendrick showed that jump already.
And Andrew Booth's football IQ is better than Derion Kendrick's, and that's the most important thing in the corner. You're talking about the depth. You need to calm the fuck down, Siri. Interrupting me and shit. Who would you compare Derion Kendrick to? A pro player.
I'm terrible at comps, man. You keep saying Eli Apple. I don't see that at all.
No. I wasn't comparing him to Eli Apple. I was just being a smartass. It's just me taking shots at.
Unless the comp is just downright obvious, I usually don't do them. That's
There
just
was an
personal.
old corner, Charles Gaines. Do you remember him?
Mhm.
That's who Derion Kendrick is.
All right.
He was an average at best player in the NFL. Andrew Booth, who would you compare him to?
Probably Slay.
Okay. I was leaning Humphrey. So the fact that we just picked Darius fucking Slay and Marlon fucking Humphrey as his pro comps, you're going to tell me Derion Kendrick is a better corner than those two guys.
All right. Should we roll this? Should we roll this interview?
Thank you.
Kendrick.
I win. You're
welcome.
welcome.
You won. Congrats. Let's go ahead and roll that interview.
You switched from Clemson to Georgia. You won the Natty this year. So you want to talk a little bit about the difference in the cultures between the two programs?
I say
I will say
two different of a culture, but I just say felt a little bit more comfortable when I landed in Georgia. People that I can lean on each and every day, and not really keeping myself isolated sometimes, and that's what I had to work on. Just putting trust in people.
Gotcha. Okay, so your man coverage technique.
Yes, sir.
What is that your favorite one to go to? What do you like to use the most?
I switch it up sometimes, but just peer stepping, re and what the release is gonna be like, and that's coming off of film. To be honest, knowing how he like to release, what routes he like to run when he releases. So, and just keep playing with my eyes and not getting too physical.
What was that like? What was it like for you making that play in the national championship that put that game away?
Yes, sir. Coach just telling me that it's that time they're gonna put the ball in the air. So, just being locked in, taking those deep breaths, staying composed with the ball in the air, and just showing that I can be that guy that you can depend on that island. So,
what was the main difference from you going from the SEC championship game? Maybe in a mentality, maybe it was something that you did on tape or whatever, like observed on tape, whatever that was, between going from the SEC championship game and then playing them again in the championship.
Right. First, I just say really how we playing the game. First game we got away from ourselves a little bit, but after that game we just locked in and got back to the basics.
Anymore. He says he wants to be the guy you can trust to be on an island. You have never shown the ability to be on an island against a top wide receiver and handle your business. Never. Not high school, not college. You think you're going to do it in the NFL now?
What, you trying to say you went back and watched his high school tape too? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I'm just assuming because, what was he, fucking 3-star prospect?
No, he's a 5-star. He's a 5-star coming out.
Oh, well, that's weird.
5-star,
He's,
0.0985.
He's a CB4 on most teams, man. He's a CB7 in Baltimore. Well, maybe not anymore. I think we just cut fucking every corner except for Marlon and Marcus. But
yeah, something like that.
Just even his interview, man, and maybe this is my bias because you try to say he was better than Booth, which is again fucking ridiculous. But he just seems so uninterested, and the lackadaisical. And one thing he's gonna have to learn is that if you're going to make it in the NFL, there are going to be times where you have to speak to the media, and it's only a very special kind of person that can get away with being a dick to the media. So, based on his interview, I think that's something that he would have to work on. And that seems like a very nitpicky thing to those people that are like, well, who cares if he plays well on the field, blah, blah, blah. Cool. At the same time, this is part of the life in the NFL. So it's stuff to pay attention to. And if you go even further with that, the way you handle yourself as a person and interact with others has a bearing on how you view yourself and how you can help yourself succeed or fail. So it's something that he will have to work on as far as the mental aspect of his game.
I'll say it's fair. I have a gut feeling about him, man. Is what it kind of comes down to. I think that he and Booth are close from my evaluation. It's just kind of a gut feeling, kind of saying, yeah, this guy's. I think he's going to end up being a better corner out of the two of them. I could be very wrong. I've definitely been wrong before.
You are. There's no could be. You are. Man, he's a career backup. I'm willing to do a 5-year bet with you.
If he's still a backup in 5 years?
No. Just purely whoever has the better career in 5 years.
It's enticing because my ego's on the line. And I am a betting man.
To be a friendly bet, what about E4s?
Well, not for much longer.
You didn't promote it?
Yeah.
Disgusting. Why would you do that?
Because I have 3 years left and I don't have a choice. And the money's better.
That's fair. You got a kid.
Yeah. And TRICARE. It's nice to have that too, which in the guard you have to pay for it, but
just bust your knee up, dude. They'll give it to you. And you can get out, and you don't have to be an E5.
Well,
do what I did.
I might do the stupid thing and reinvest. I don't know yet. Depends.
Yeah, that seems ridiculous. Yeah, 5 years, better career, $50, $10 a year.
All right, cool. Sounds good. Let's try it. I think Booth will be playing before Kendrick, but yeah.
You can just go ahead and send me the $50 now.
Just Venmo it, like right now. It's over.
He's one of those guys that I tried. I even watched him with an open mind after you said that. Like I went back and I rewatched a couple of games, and I was just like, no.
See, I thought the championship in particular, he played really well. Granted, Jamison goes down. That probably had something to do with it.
Correct.
But
Jamison Williams is a force.
Yeah, and I think I just mocked Jamison at 13 to the Browns to replace Jarvis, and then he would basically fill in immediately for Jarvis.
I would like
assuming
to
they go ahead and let him go.
Jamison Williams at 45.
He's not going that far.
No, that would be wonderful, though. I would be extremely happy.
It would be a dream come true. Something would have to be really fucked up with his medicals.
You imagine Jamison Williams, Rashad Bateman, Hollywood Brown, and Mark Andrews on the same offense?
It'd be freaky. You're right. It'd be freaky.
And J.K.
Did you even look at my mock draft?
You don't pay attention to shit that I say in the chat, huh?
No, not when you guys start going off and I'm busy. And then I come back and I'm like, I'm not reading all this.
I love Jordan Davis, dude.
Oh, yeah. Okay, good.
I've been a Jordan Davis guy since day 3.
What's day 3?
Everyone says, oh, since day 1. Like, no, you weren't. But like for a long time, yeah, I'm like, man, Jordan Davis is a freak. And then he tested out of control at the combine. Yeah, he's a fucking animal.
The only issue is he's going to be probably a 2-down guy at the next level, I think. Just because if you look at how Alabama beat Georgia in the SEC championship, Georgia likes to do those line shifts on the defensive line, but run it like it's almost like a hockey team. They had 3 different lines that would go in there. And every 2-3 snaps, they're rotating those guys out.
Yeah.
And so Bama picked up on that. And what they did was they started running hurry up coming off of those second, third plays when they normally start swapping those guys out. And they started doing that in the championship game too. Problem was in the championship game when Williams went down, they had 2 backup receivers.
Yeah.
And were not comfortable running that hurry up at all at that point, with trying to keep them on the same page with Bryce. And so they got away. They were not running any hurry up at all, and they were able to do their line shifts, and they came right back into the game. But That's kind of the issue. That's the only issue that I have with him is you're looking at a 2-3 down player at tops. But while he's on the field, he's going to be a monster. And it just made sense. Like the Ravens are losing almost everybody on the defensive line right now.
Yeah, I think we're probably bringing Calais back, but I think Brandon Williams probably gone. Derek Wolf might come back.
You're gonna have to replace Williams. And
yeah.
Why the fuck wouldn't you replace Williams with Davis?
Yeah, exactly. Because then you have the same like big body that can take the double teams, but also Jordan Davis has pass rush juice, which Brandon Williams really never has. So
there was a play in the first game against Clemson where he got a one-on-one opportunity with the right guard, and he just pushed that motherfucker all the way back past the quarterback, pivoted, and made the sack. And it was all in like 3 seconds. And I was watching
an animal, dude. So if you have him in the middle, and then you have Owe on the outside, and then whoever the hell you're going to have on the other side, and whoever the hell else you're going to have in the middle, like, man, if you can go bing, bang, boom, like if Ojabo was there at 14, I think you'd take Ojabo, because that's, dude, Owe on one side, no Ojabo on the other. Forget about it. And then you turn around and take like Wyatt or something in a second. But
you could make that argument. Wyatt's not going to be there in the second. I'm going to tell you that right now. Wyatt is not going to be there in the second.
I mean, I viewed him as a second or third round guy before the combine, and I don't put much stock in the testing unless it's severely out of control.
I don't
like Jordan Davis was severely out of control.
Here's the deal: is with Davis and Wyatt, the way that they're viewed pretty much across the league right now is 1A, 1B.
And I feel like they should be.
Because Wyatt is, I think he's got better stamina. He's a more versatile player. You could play him as a 1 or a 3 or a 4I. So you can put him anywhere on that defensive line on the inside. You could play pretty much anywhere on the defensive line, the 3-man front. So they're going to stick. He's going to be off the board either before, it's a kind of a preference. He might be off the board before Davis, but if he's not off the board before Davis, it'll be very shortly thereafter. I think I just mocked him at 19. No, that's Walker. 22 to the Raiders.
Trayvon Walker's a monster too.
Yeah, there's people talking about he might go before Thibodeau, which I don't see.
I don't know about that.
But there were people coming out of the combine going, yeah, he's going before Thibodeau. And I was like, okay.
Well, then you're talking about Tibbs dropping to like the mid-teens.
No, Tibbs goes top 10.
I think he does too, but I can't see a world where I don't either.
I really don't.
But I don't see a world where Walker goes before 5.
No, I don't see that either. I'm just telling you what people were saying, like, coming out of the combine. But there's definitely some people that were thinking, yeah, he's just that good. Like, he could go there before Tibbs.
We just need to go ahead and put a bomb mask on Kyle Hamilton, because I think his perfect range is somewhere between 13 and 15. Literally right between 13 and 15.
I don't think he gets past the Jets.
I don't think he makes it past at 4.
No, because the Jets have 4 and 10. So I'm saying he's not going to get out of the 10. But I wouldn't be shocked if
he's not making it past 7, bro.
I wouldn't be shocked if they take him at 4.
I think
the reason I'll tell you why.
He's the best prospect in the draft.
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. You got an extra draft pick this year in the first round, 10th overall, right, from the Seahawks. Why do you have that pick?
Jamal Adams.
Right. He's a box safety, right? He's pretty much limited to the box.
Yeah, sure.
You don't want him in deep coverage, even though Seattle plays him there, and he gets toasted when he's there. But
yeah, you can put him in like a half field, third field situation, but anything beyond that, he's
no single high.
Yeah,
absolutely no single high. But you've got an extra first round pick, and you really don't want to be using your top picks. Like everybody who's in the top 5 right now, outside of
who's in your
Giants
top 5? Oh, you mean like teams? Gotcha.
Yeah, teams. Everybody's there in the top 5, outside of maybe the Giants, would love to get a trade back.
Yeah.
And it's because the top end talent in this class is not.
Jacksonville doesn't want to trade back, not unless they're getting.
No, Jacksonville would love to trade back. So actually, I sat
and
there
lose out on Evan Neal.
I think they're going to take Neal. I don't think I think they wouldn't mind moving back if they had the opportunity to, though. So I sat there. I sat there with Trent Balake. I said that wrong. Trent Balke.
Yeah.
GM. I sat at the bar with him for a couple minutes. I'll tell you a story off the air about that too. It was pretty cool. But I was the first thing I said to him is, look, because I'm sitting there wearing my media tag, and when you're walking around the combine and like the hotels and stuff, the JW and the Marriott's over there, that's kind of like don't talk to that guy, run. It's almost like a red flag. But and normally I would hide it, but that day I didn't because it was Sunday, and who gives a fuck at that point. But I just said, the first thing I said to him was, look, I'm not like the rest of the media. I'm not going to sit here and ask you who you're taking number one. And what he said was, he's like, I don't know, maybe you should tell me who we're going to take number one. Kind of like I don't even know at this point. And that's kind of the attitude with the top 5 picks right now is, who do you take up there? These are not
Kyle Hamilton, and you don't look back.
And Laurie Fitzpatrick, she was on the show a couple weeks ago. She covers the Jaguars. She's on a podcast on the Believe Network with Connor Miles and Clay Harbor. And she was saying, take him at 1. He's the best player in the class. Why not? You need a boundary guy. You need a safety, back end. And it was like, well, that makes sense. I just don't know if you take a safety at 1 because you're taking a safety at 1.
Who cares? Who cares about these? Oh, don't take a safety for a while it was don't take a safety in the first round, or don't take a tight end in the top 20, or these stupid little things that they say because of positional value and shit. When you run into a player like Kyle Hamilton, fuck the tradition, fuck the taboo. Who cares? He's not just a safety. His versatility is unmatched. Kyle Hamilton is the best prospect in this draft, and it's not close. Who's next? Who's your second overall prospect?
Probably Kayvon, honestly.
Right. Is Kayvon as versatile as Kyle Hamilton?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Can he make as big of an impact on your games as Kyle Hamilton?
Not immediately. I think Kayvon's going to end up being arguably a top 5 edge. But it's going to take him a couple years to get there because he still needs, Jeff Schwartz was pointing this out the other day. He needs to work on his hands. He's awesome. He needs to work on his hands a little bit. But once he kind of starts to really get that, and the problem was Oregon was moving him around all over the place and having him play all kinds of different stuff, and that kind of hurt him.
I guess a better question would be, right? So take position out of it. Okay, we can agree that Kyle Hamilton is a complete
number
player,
1,
right?
Yeah,
and he's a complete player.
Yeah.
Name me one other prospect in the top 10 prospects that you have, top 10, 12, that's an absolute complete prospect.
Evan Neal.
He has no weaknesses.
Evan Neal has came into Alabama. I just pointed this out today. Went into Alabama in 2019 as a true freshman playing left guard.
Yeah.
In 2020 as a true sophomore, he played right tackle. 2021 as a true junior, he played as a left tackle.
He's got his versatility. He's a five position player.
Yeah, probably 4.
Maybe not. Yeah, maybe not center. Yeah.
But yeah, and he played right guard in high school.
So then you would say that your options for 1OA are Kyle Hamilton, Evan Neal.
Yeah.
So if you're the Jaguars, since we're talking about them, right? Mm-hmm. What makes a bigger impact on the success of your team?
That is a position completely up for debate.
Is it left tackle or is it free safety? Slash inside linebacker slash corner slash slot.
See, he's probably not going to play left tackle.
Because they just franchise tagged Cam Robinson?
Yeah. But I think the plan is.
Speaking of which, why?
because who are you going to replace him with? You
draft a fucking turnstile.
Here, listen. He's not that bad.
You
He's
could
not
replace
top
him with
15.
you could replace him with 2020 Andrew Thomas and be better off.
He's not top 15, but he's not terrible. Okay.
He ain't top 20.
Who are you gonna get to replace him?
Evan Neal.
No, so hear me out. This makes the most sense to me. And this sounds like something that Doug Peterson would be on board for, because Peterson, everybody knows, loves offensive linemen and wants to be strong in the trenches, and defensive linemen. He was the one who started the whole, well, Saban technically did, but he stole it from Saban and started using it in the NFL, the whole swapping out defensive lines and rotating your defensive line, having a deep edge rusher group and versatile guys, all that, blah, blah. All right, that's Doug Peterson. You know that Neal can play right tackle because you just watched him go win a natty in 2020 as that right tackle. He's made the swap every year. Talking with some offensive line coaches, they were telling me, we want to, if I'm going to swap a guy from left to right, I want to give him 5 to 6 weeks to prep it before we do that, just to get through those mechanics, the mirroring, learning all that stuff, right?
Yeah, you got to reverse everything.
Exactly. So you know that he can do it because he's already done it 3 times. Coming out of high school as a right guard to left guard, then to right tackle, then to left tackle. So you know he has no issues with that. You put him at right tackle this year, you play out Cam. If you can't come to a long-term deal, which you probably don't, he walks. He goes sign somewhere for $20 million a year, thinking he's a bookend tackle. Dude, Nate Solder got paid like crazy. Cam Robinson.
There is a dearth of, or a lack of talent in the offensive line in the NFL. So I get what you're saying, but to say Cam Robinson is worth $20 million a year is absurd.
Right, but so Cam goes next year, probably. You're probably not going to work out a long-term deal with him.
Right.
So now you have your bookend left tackle, and you solidified your line as well as you're going to for this year. So long-term, looking at it that way, yeah, it would suck not to get Kyle Hamilton because, that's a guy that's going to play in the back end of your defense for probably next decade. If you could potentially, number one, you might be able to trade back up into the first round and pick up Lewis Seen. That's a one high safety.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of DBs in this class, and you can kind of pick your poison. There's only one Evan Neal.
So there's a lot of one Kyle Hamilton. Because you're not just talking about a free safety. You're talking about he can play box, he can play corner, he can play slot, he can play linebacker.
Yep.
But the danger with that is then you run into the whole Isaiah Simmons thing.
Right.
Where,
I was about to bring that up too.
I think Isaiah Simmons, is probably a will linebacker. I think Kyle Hamilton is a free safety.
I'm going to agree with you because I think that's what he does best. But point being, your offensive line, you have a franchise quarterback that you're trying to figure out right now in Trevor Lawrence. Everybody's been talking about Trevor Lawrence being the godsend, the next Peyton Manning, whatever the fuck they call him. So, point is, you're going to do everything you can to protect him. And so I think that's why Neal is the more valuable guy at number one. And that's because he has that versatility. You can play him at any of those 4 positions, left or right, doesn't matter, left or right guard, left or right tackle. And he's going to do it at a very high level. That gives you so much flexibility, not just now, but in the future with who you bring in to play on that offensive line.
So then,
if he ends up at left tackle next year, he's going to play there for another decade.
So we've kind of lost the thread here a little bit, but getting back to the whole where does Kyle Hamilton fall to thing.
Yeah.
Who goes next? Aiden?
Yeah, Aiden's going to go to Detroit if he's there.
And then what about
100%.
Houston? Do they trade back or do they want Icky?
I think they're going to play like they want Icky, but right now they've got what's his face, the dude they traded for.
Tunsil.
Yeah, Tunsil. Yeah. So you got Tunsil there already. I think he's got another year or 2 on his contract. Icky's never played right tackle.
Okay.
Why would you draft him and try to move him over there to the right side?
So then you have the Jets at 4.
That's where I think Kyle goes.
If we were going to project a trade with Houston, right? Who do you think has the juice to trade up to 3 and is willing to
Giants.
do it? From 5 or from 7?
From 5. They'll give them both to get Icky right now. They love Icky.
But
They
then you're
want
running
Icky
into the
so
same
bad.
problem. Andrew Thomas put together a very good year at left tackle last year. So, do you move Andrew Thomas to right tackle?
He can
or do
play
you
right.
move Icky to right tackle?
He can play right. Andrew can, because he did. So
True, but he's played left for the past couple of years. And he showed last
played
year
right.
that he could
He
play it
played
very
right
well.
Initially, when he got to Georgia, that's when he played right tackle.
That's what I'm saying, though. It's a few years removed from that. And Andrew Thomas has played left tackle very well, or at least did last year. So do you move him from the position that he's shown himself the ability to excel at and then stick Icky there and potentially fuck your lineup?
Personally, no. I wouldn't do it. Personally. But I can tell you, I've heard from multiple people who really know this. Yes, the Giants will do anything to get Icky right now. They think they love Icky. They want him more than anybody in this class. So that's why in my mock I had him trade up. So
that's why you think Kyle Hamilton at 4.
Yes, I don't think he slips past 4 personally.
Okay.
And then Tibbs falls in right there at 5.
And that would be Houston.
Yeah.
At that point, in this scenario.
Yes.
All right, I can see that. I don't know that Baltimore stays at 14, unless a extremely good prospect falls.
You think they're going to try to move back?
Maybe. I think they're going to try to move, is what I think.
Okay.
Unless they see somebody start to fall.
So this will be a draft day decision, not a.
Yeah, I don't think this is they don't really do the whole 2 months in advance. We're going to try to move thing. Even when they tried to move up for Larry Tunsil, it was a spur of the moment thing. It wasn't.
Yeah, because he was slipping.
Was it Tunsil or Zeke? They tried to move up. They tried to trade with the Cowboys anyway, and Cowboys told them to fuck off. And it was a draft day decision. Most of them have been draft day decisions. They see how the board falls and then they work from there. But I think
the advantage that you have when you're not a team picking in the top 10 every year.
Yeah. It's weird picking at 14. Dude. Being able to pick before midnight is a strange feeling. Well, I'm about running out of juice. So do you have anything else you want to discuss?
No, I think that's you got it. But yeah, so Derion Kendrick, stand right here now from this point on because I have $50 riding on it.
Unbelievable, dude. I demand that you change your Twitter name to Derion Kendrick Stan.
So if I lose this bet, I suppose that'll be a condition.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. No, it's not money, dude.
It's changing. It's changing my name.
No. It's a tattoo.
Oh my God.
If you lose, you have to get Andrew Booth Jr.'s face. And if I lose, I have to get Derion Kendrick's face.
Does it have to be somewhere where you have to look at it, is the question, though?
No, we can go in practical jokers with this, dude. Get it on your thigh. You can cover it up. I don't care.
All right. That works.
That's the one.
That's worth more than $50.
It sure is. I can't wait to see Andrew Booth Jr.'s face on your thigh.
Be like, I'll honestly probably be married at that point. My wife would be like, "What are you doing?"
Oh yeah, your wife's gonna hate you. Blame
be
it
like,
on
"Well,
me."
I lost."
No, actually, you can't blame it on me. Yeah, you can't blame it on me. You can blame it on your own dumbass fucking take.
Or Derion Kendrick. Somebody. Put the blame on somebody. Make her hate. Probably don't need to make her hate you.
Yeah. Well.
Probably a bad idea.
That's it. Fucking blame the corner that has no idea what's going on.
Exactly.
Poor
that
guy.
guy I interviewed for 2 minutes at the combine. I heard more uhs than I think anywhere else in the fucking planet.
Yeah, that was a tough listen. But I mean, some people just aren't good speakers. So, all
Well,
right,
fair
man.
enough. Thanks for coming on, Tibbs. It's been a pleasure having you. You didn't troll me
buddy.
too bad, so I'm okay. My
Yeah.
ego will survive another day.
Luckily, you caught me on a tired day. But basically, anybody that wants to find me can find me on Twitter at Late Round Corner. Or you can find my work if I ever decide to write anything ever again on NFL Sapient, Draft Sapient. I haven't had the urge, man. I'd rather do like podcasts, guest spots, and just spout random bullshit on Twitter. That's where you can find like my opinions. If you want to know how I feel about a prospect, come to Twitter, ask me about it, and I will gladly engage in a conversation with you about it.
And I can testify this is incredibly true. This is probably the most true thing I've heard you say tonight. In fact, I think this is what defines you as a person.
The most true thing I've said tonight was that Andrew Booth was better than Derion Kendrick.
Subjective. That is completely up for debate.
Tape don't lie.
Again, thanks a lot, dude. And I'll see if I can't swing you in again in the next month to update on some different stuff.
And then we'll definitely do a post-draft recap type deal.
100%. Sounds great, dude. Take it easy tonight.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for listening, guys. And you have a good rest of your night, buddy.
You too, man.
All right.